Well, I'm your hostess and your melanated queen. Y'all, I don't know what's going on out here. We have a whole bunch of sirens passing through here. A whole bunch of sirens. Oh, a whole bunch of sirens are passing through. Happy Thursday, y'all. Heute East Donnerstag. Let me put this on if I can. Let's see if it'll stay on. I broke my other clip to my other microphone, y'all. My nails need to be filed really, really badly. Yeah, I have heard so many sirens go past here since I've come out here. Um, so I don't know what's going on. I had my nail file earlier, now I can't find it. It's always like when you're looking for stuff, you can't find it. So it'll show up eventually, y'all. That's aggravating, to say the least. Not that I was gonna find my nail, but I don't see it. Oh, you just have to like keep these things handy as best as you can. Oh, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. But anyway, this video is about the government shutdown. Um, and so we're gonna actually delve into that in just a second. All right, I can't find it, y'all. So I'm just gonna go without it. Oh, y'all. So let's look into it. Okay. It says here, close this. How many sirens are we going to freaking hear? Y'all, what is going on out there? There are a lot of sirens passing by here. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but I can hear it. Anyway, back to what I was saying. The government shutdown is over, but things are not back to normal. Another one. What is Y'all, I'm so distracted right now. That sounded like 10 or 15 sirens. I hope everybody is okay. The government shutdown is over allegedly, but hundreds of thousands of federal workers are coming back after 43 days to anything but normalcy. Employees from across the country told CNN. So, if you recall, the government shutdown is officially over. Um, they actually reversed the layoffs, you all. And if I sound congested, please excuse me because those fourth graders that I was with last week had some type of germs. And so, therefore, I got kind of congested. What's good, Marius Lewandowski? Love you. Love you too. Shout out to Chicago Tamerlan. How are you? They are saying that the people that actually got laid off, the federal workers, their layoffs were reversed. So this is the great news, y'all. The shutdown is over, but there are things such going on, such as flight delays and cancellations will linger as air traffic controllers stack back up. Because the air traffic controllers were not getting paid. John Lambert, what's good? You said, hi, pretty woman. You're so beautiful. Thank you so much. If anyone was impacted by this shutdown, I want to say shout out to you. Hopefully, you're making it through okay. And then also, it says here workers who haven't received a paycheck in weeks will still have to wait for back pay. And I think that's kind of egregious. It says research grants will be delayed. Economic reports are likely to be scrapped. 6 weeks of email and voicemails will have to be waded through. So, if you are waiting on something that depends on the federal government, things are delayed, and that can be very frustrating. And in 3 months, they may have to contend with turbulence all over again. The agreement President Donald Trump signed into law on Wednesday evening funds most of the government only through January. So this means that everything is good until January, and then they're going to revisit stuff all over again. It says there's no back to normal in this deal because all it does is kick the can until January the 30th, said Mark Steer, president and CEO of Partnership for Public Service, a nonpartisan nonprofit government organization. It's a little like the federal workforce is going to return to their house after a hurricane and there's another storm on the horizon. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but as far as the healthcare benefits, that has not been set into place. And they said that's what a lot of this was all about. The Democrats were holding out because they wanted people to be able to receive their health care benefits and their subsidies. And so there's no guarantee that that's actually going to take place now. If people save money, they wouldn't have to worry about not getting paid. Spend, 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 nothing for a rainy day. I don't really sympathize with them at all, you said. Okay, Victor Garnett. Let me see what's going on here. Federal workers said the shutdown has been an exclamation point on top of months of chaos as the Trump administration has slashed jobs and, in some cases, entire agencies since the president took off in January. The administration sought to fire more federal workers when the shutdown hit. But the short term funding deal halted those dismissals until the end of January. So it sounds like he was going to slash more jobs, y'all. It's going to be stressful for everybody, said Yolanda Jacobs, president of the American Federation of Government Employees and a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention employee. We can only begin to imagine how difficult it's going to be to get everything functioning again, especially since we were already limping along in a lot of ways before the shutdown happened. For the American public, the lingering effects of the shutdown could be felt for months or even years to come at the nation's airports. Meanwhile, those receiving government assistance like food stamps are eagerly awaiting the government to finally get funds out the door. So, Victor said if people save money, they wouldn't have to worry about not getting paid. Spend, 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 nothing for a rainy day. I don't really sympathize with them at all. What about, Victor, the people that are trying their best. And even though they're trying to save, emergencies keep happening. Maybe their car breaks down. Maybe they have unexpected health expenses and they're trying to do their best. Maybe they got laid off while this whole thing was going on. I mean, I do understand what you're saying. I do believe people should try their best to prepare for their financial future and definitely never depend 100% on the government. Anytime you depend 100% on anything, something could go awry, something could go wrong. We definitely know that. But there are a lot of people in very unfortunate circumstances as well. From food safety and NASA to education and the national parks, federal workforces were already short staffed following widespread cuts from Doge earlier this year, which employees told CNN will make it even harder to dig out from under the shutdown. This moment is going to look very different than in 2019 after the last government shutdown when these offices were fully staffed, said an education department employee. Now, if you don't know, while this shutdown took place, they actually cut a lot of the special education teachers. So those children that have special needs, they cut a lot of that staffing for those children. A second education employee told CNN that they were told only check their emails at approved times to look for reduction in force, layoff notices, and to make sure their computers didn't lock down after 30 days. Y'all, this is craziness. It was heart wrenching to see the emails piling up, the person said, including with desperate pleas from parents of disabled children who filed discrimination cases with the department's Office for Civil Rights, you all. Mm. Another education official estimated that during the shutdown, there were more than 2,000 complaints filed with the office, which handles allegations of discrimination against students with disabilities. How do y'all feel about that? How do y'all feel about the fact that they laid off those special needs children's teachers and staff workers? All right, so they're in limbo right now. It will take days to get labs used to test food and prevent foodborne illnesses at the Food and Drug Administration back to full capacity at the agency's testing lab, said one worker at the agency's Human Foods program. Besides having to catch up on equipment, maintenance, and quality checks, it will take time to restart research along with border policy planning, the worker said, and that the IRS backlogs and tax filings from those who filed for extensions will take 2 to 3 months to catch up, said Gibson Jones. Who really cares about the IRS, y'all? President of the National Treasury Employees Union Local 98 in Memphis, you're talking about more than 40 days of mail that no one touched. People who are expecting money back will also see a delay in processing those tax refunds. Yeah, it's a big hot mess. A big focus at the National Park Service will be assessing any damage that occurred to parks during the shutdown, said Kristen Bringle, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs at the National Parks Conservation Association. Did people really damage parks during the shutdown, though? Many parks had law enforcement staffing during the shutdown, but there have been reports of graffiti and off road vehicle damage in parks like Arches and Glen Canyon, as well as reports of illegal activities like base jumping and flying drones in Yosemite, Bringle said. But there was a surge of volunteer support during the shutdown, she said, and many parks paid for custodial services like garbage removal with fee money, or volunteer groups stepped in to help. Thankfully, many parks didn't get damaged, Bringle said, but this is unsustainable and everyone knows it. Yeah, were any of you all impacted by this government shutdown? Let me know. At NASA's iconic Goddard Space Flight Center's main campus in Greenbelt, Maryland, home of the Hubble and James Webb Space Telescopes, employees were alarmed as more than a dozen buildings on the campus were emptied and padlocked with very little notice given, CNN recently reported. Some of the sources CNN recently spoke to said they fear the sudden moves are a part of an effort by the Trump administration to quietly gut the Goddard campus during the shutdown, a claim a NASA spokesperson denied. There will be many people who have no idea that this facility closure situation is going on, a NASA engineer said. I expect that will be a pretty crazy situation on top of just coming back. I'm trying to see how this is going to affect the regular American person. So we know the IRS is backed up. We know the special needs teachers were laid off. We know the federal workers, those layoffs were reversed. So now when they return to work, they will have a pileup of emails. And if you're waiting on anything that involves the federal government, basically it's going to be a delay. And also the air traffic controllers, you all. It says when roughly 1.4 million federal workers who have been furloughed or working without pay will receive their back pay may vary by agency. Many have missed two full paychecks and a partial one during the shutdown. In the past, it only took a few business days for workers to be paid, said Jacqueline Simon, policy director at the American Federation of Government Employees. But she was concerned that this year it could take longer because many human resources staffers at agencies were furloughed or have left amid the administration's downsizing efforts. Adding to the complexity is that federal workers are not all paid at the same time since the government uses multiple pay systems, said Steer of Partnership for Public Services. It's a huge undertaking on top of a lot of other things that the federal employees are going to have to be doing, he said, though it should take a matter of days, not weeks. But until we get paid, everyone's going to still have those same financial stressors on them, said Ben Emmel, who represents 2,400 Government Accountability Office employees as president of the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers, Local 1921. All right. So also too, they're saying that there was some information released from the Epstein files. And I want to talk about that. The U.S. air traffic control system is more than 3,000 controllers short of what's needed to fully staff towers and other facilities that guide planes throughout the country. The current workforce of 14,000 controllers not only had to deal with the regular staffing shortages, but also more coworkers not showing up during the shutdown, all while not getting paid. All this put young controllers in a very difficult position during the shutdown, leading some to quit. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy told reporters this week while some older controllers chose to simply retire. 15 to 20 retirement age controllers have left per day, Duffy said, up from four in a typical day. So if you're looking for a job, you may want to look into becoming an air traffic controller, you all. Um, Just when enrollers in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, will receive their full benefits for November will depend on where they live. More than a dozen states started issuing full allotments to residents last week before the Supreme Court paused the court order requiring full funding for the program. Several other states began sending partial benefits last week based on an earlier court order. Other states have not yet distributed any of this month's aid. After the government reopens, many states could issue full SNAP benefits within 3 days, said Lexi Kuznick, Director of Policy and Government Relations for the American Public Human Services Association, which represents state, county, and city agencies. Some, however, could take up to a week to do so. The spending agreement signed into law takes the threat of another lapse of SNAP off the table in January when another shutdown could occur. The bill funded several agencies, including the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which I think is very important because we need our farms, we need our food and our produce, which administers SNAP for the entire fiscal year. However, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program and Head Start could take longer to restart. They are run by the Department of Health and Human Services. It typically takes at least 30 days for the HHS to calculate states' allocations and get the money out the door for this program, said Mark Wolf. Federal grants for the roughly 140 Head Start programs serve more than 65,000 children and families that were affected by the shutdown could take up to 2 weeks to distribute. So a lot of people, it's just a lot of delays going on right now. Okay. It's a lot. I'm not reading all of this, but I do want to get into this situation with Trump and Epstein, y'all. Trump and Epstein. So now they found allegedly some emails to link Trump to Epstein, which we already saw the pictures back in the day, right? Where they took pictures together. They were friends. We already know that. So I don't know how he's going to deny any ties to Epstein, right? Because we know that they were pretty kosher back in the day. Okay, takeaways from the new Epstein emails. All right. So let's look at this Trump Epstein situation, y'all. It's always something going on. Here we have a picture of your former or your current president back in the day with Mr. Epstein himself, pictured up, both of them grinning. This was in 1997. They were friends for years. Though the US president says he had a falling out with him in the early 2000s. This is what he's claiming, y'all. What's good, King Hazy? How are you? It says US, this is November. Okay, so November 12th, 2025. This was updated 6 hours ago. U.S. lawmakers have released more than 20,000 pages of documents from the estate of the disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, including some that mention President Donald Trump, you all. Early on Wednesday, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee published 3 email exchanges, including correspondence between Epstein, who allegedly died. They say he died, you all. Like this video, y'all. You're chilling. How am I? I'm all right, a little congested. I only have a few minutes and then I gotta go back in here with the children, y'all, and get to these children. And his longtime associate at Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence for SE trafficking, okay? They also released emails between Epstein and the author Michael Wolff, who has written numerous books about Trump. Within hours, House Republicans released a massive trink of documents to counter what they said was a Democratic effort to cherry pick documents. They also said it was an attempt to create a fake narrative to slander President Trump, you all. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the emails were selectively leaked by House Democrat to liberal media to create a fake narrative to smear President Donald Trump. The fact remains that President Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club decades ago for being a creep to his female employees, including Jafir, she said. Well, that's how I pronounce it. That's not really how you pronounce it. It's Jufrey. Trump was a friend of Epstein for years, but the president said that if they fell out in the early 2000s, 2 years before Epstein was first arrested. Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. What the Epstein Maxwell email says, you all. The first email released by Democrats is from 2011 and is between Epstein and Maxwell. In it, Epstein writes to Maxwell, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. Epstein goes on to write that Trump has never once been mentioned, including by a police chief. Maxwell responded, I have been thinking about that. The victim's name was redacted in the email the Democrats released, although the unredacted version is in the trink released by the committee that shows the name Virginia. The White House said it refers to the late Virginia Giuffre, a prominent Epstein accuser who died by suicide earlier this year. Do you believe that she really died by suicide. What's good, Matty Ice? I find that highly suspicious, y'all. In a statement, the White House said Jufrey repeatedly said President Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever and couldn't have been friendlier to her in their limited interactions. Jufrey said in 2016 deposition that she never saw Trump participate in any abuse, and in a memoir released this year, she did not accuse the president of any wrongdoing. Asked why the name was originally redacted, Representative Robert Garcia, the leading Democrat on the U.S. House Oversight Committee, said the party will never release names of victims in line with the wishes of the families. You all, very interesting that all of this is taking place right when the shutdown is over. All of this stuff is coming together right now. In exchanges with Wolf, the author Epstein discusses his connection to Trump, who at the time was campaigning for the presidency ahead of his first term in office. Epstein responds, if you were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Wolf writes, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. He adds, of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say, Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. In a separate email from October 2016, days before the US presidential election, Wolf offers Epstein a chance to sit for an interview that could finish Trump. Y'all, I gotta go. How are you doing, Mark Brody? I gotta go back in here because I gotta get these children. But y'all, this is getting hot, heavy, and interesting. So, as always, I'm gonna say continue to walk in your divinity. Thank you so much for tuning in, y'all. We will reconvene next time and later on. This is a very short rendition of Brown Girls Are Beautiful. I thank y'all for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, and we'll get back more into this later, y'all. I gotta go. I'm signing out. Y'all, please be safe out here. Celebrate yourself, and thank y'all for tuning in. Till next time. Very interesting, Matty Ice, definitely.